I think Bed Bath and Beyond buying Fathom was all about the data. How do I get closer to that customer? How do I insert myself in between them buying a home? And I think if you're a broker owner, I mean, think about how sensitive agents get when they join a brokerage and the broker says, "Oh, use my CRM." It's like, "Oh, I'm not giving you my info." The broker should have that same attitude. Why am I giving my direct competitor access to anything that makes me unique or gives me an advantage?
This is the Profitable Broker.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Profitable Broker, where we talk to people who are really moving the needle in the brokerage industry. And today I'm excited to have Chris Schwartz with us. Chris is a storied executive in the real estate industry. And now he's doing some work with us at Broker VMA and also at ICBC. So, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. I'm fired up to be here and just honored to be on the team. When such an exciting time in real estate.
It is, Chris, and I'm glad you kind of put that out there because we're going to talk a little bit about that. My goal today is to talk about candid thoughts on the real Remax transaction and Real's acquisition of Remax. And I've written an article, Chris, called "The Candid Thoughts," and you're such an experienced guy. I want to get your feedback. I want to get your honest opinion on some of the thoughts that I put down for our audience, for our listeners. But before I do that, tell us a bit about yourself. Like when did you decide to get into the real estate business?
Well, so it was a Saturday morning. I was taking my dogs for a walk, and my neighbor was having a cup of coffee who happened to work for Remax. And he said, "Hey, we're looking for a guy to do a special project. We were putting kiosks in Menards locations." And at the time, I was actually a franchisor in a different space, and had a conversation with him. Met Walter Schneider from Integra, and that's where it started. It's been an amazing learning experience, and what a crazy industry.
Now you've got a ton of experience in real estate in the real estate industry with different companies. So tell us about that first.
Yeah, absolutely. So started with Remax for the privately held region, Integra. Was there for about 4 or 5 years. Then I went and ran a real estate online auction company, and we grew that across the U.S., the Caribbean, Central America, Canada, and it was really sort of taking all the stigma out of auction and using it to really enhance listings that maybe were just lagging a little bit. Um, then went and worked for Realogy, which is now Compass, and in between there it was Anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
um, and doing mergers, acquisitions, and conversion franchising across the country with them. And then went back to Remax in 2020 as Remax decided they wanted to focus more on conversion franchising and offer more of a M&A opportunity to their broker owners.
Excellent, Chris. And that's, of course, where we met. We did a lot of work with you and mergers and acquisitions at Remax, and that's where I first got a tremendous level of respect for you and your knowledge and your integrity in the business. And I'm grateful for our relationship having started then. Tell us this: that when you look at the business right now, I mean, M&A has changed so much from the time you got involved with M&A to the time till today. What do you think the biggest changes are?
I think it's these big players. It's the bigger M&A, right? It's Bed Bath and Beyond acquiring Fathom.
Mm-hmm.
It's the creativity, the family trusts that are buying the large brokerages.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just a lot of consolidation happening, where I think you either need to be a boutique, or you need to roll into some larger brokerage that can add all the services. So I'm really seeing that sort of transform over the last 10, 15 years.
It's interesting. It's a great springboard, if you will, into the real Remax transaction. And of course, we've seen. I was going to say three. It might be more. Let's count them up. We've got Bed Bath and Beyond acquiring Fathom. We've got EXP acquiring Next Home. We've got Real acquiring Remax, and that doesn't count the Compass acquisition. So I guess that's number four big ones. And then, as you say, we've got other smaller players acquiring kind of regional companies, and in some cases, regional franchisors, which of course provides a great opportunity for people wanting to build a business and exit that space. But we know now, hey, you've got a lot of experience in this space. If we look at the Real Remax transaction, there's a few things that I had as kind of candid views, and I just wanted to ask your opinion on them. One is that I said to many of our clients, and of course our clients are the broker owners, the franchisors, now your clients too, and I said that things changed between Friday, April 24th and Monday, April 27th. I said when we went home Friday, April 24th, our owner was really a marketing company whose primary customer was the broker owner. Their model depended on selling franchises, and providing services to agents to make sure that brokers would buy more franchises. And on Monday morning, we all came to work to find out that the company now, our owner, was a competitor, a broker competitor. What impact do you see that having on franchisees, I should say specifically, the rank and file people that are out operating offices in the street?
Well, I think not only a competitor, but a different model,
Mm,
right? And so I've heard you say it a lot. I've heard other, really top-notch people in the industry talk about, agents should be focusing on their customer,
hmm
right? And the brokers need to be focusing on their customer, the agent. And, I think having a competitor and a different model really makes it hard for that Remax broker owner who's been operating, for 50 plus years
hmm
uh, under sort of one set of circumstances. Now they've got sort of the fox in the hen house.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things I thought about, Chris, is that before, of course, there was some brand on brand competition. There isn't any model. But now I've got sort of 33,000 agents that are not only compensated to sell real estate, they're compensated to recruit people. So I just inherited sort of 33,000 competitors. And 33,000 competitors with arguably a more attractive cost model. And so
Right.
that's got to provide some pause for people saying, hey, how does this work?
Well, and I think an unfair advantage,
hmm
right? At least if they're, a different company and their competitor, you can go in and you can prepare and you can create a tremendous brokerage value proposition. But now when they're your partner,
hmm
um, and they're offering the same stuff,
hmm
uh, how do you, as a broker owner, what do you have to add in your business to now really differentiate yourself from your own company?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I looked at Candid Thoughts, Chris, I really broke the thought process, if you will, or the analysis into two groups. We've got kind of let's say the 50 and under, or even the 100 and under franchisee. And they're the people that really depend on, in this case, on Remax for their value proposition. And so they now their value proposition is the same as, right? It's like, hey, we're all one, we're cousins, and so that becomes problematic from a recruiting standpoint. The bigger brokers, the people that have their own value proposition, one of the candid thoughts I had, and concerns, frankly, for our customers, is the idea that that Real's kind of stated idea or business model, if you will, is to sell ancillary products to all customers. And of course, many of our big brokers have an existing business that sell ancillary products, and it's a significant profit center. So now all of a sudden, I not only have a competitor in the recruiting space, I have a competitor in the ancillary space. Tell me what you think of that. Do you see that as the same issue I do?
I think it's a tremendous problem. I think any franchisor has an issue providing value to the larger brokerages,
hmm
and so in order for them to be profitable, they're adding the ancillary business. And now, when your parent company is now your direct competitor, um, it just makes it harder and harder. And then add to that, now they have access to all your data.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think it's very problematic.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that that leads me to kind of one of the last candid thought, and I'd be curious to get your feedback on this because again, you have so much experience. Is data? I kind of look at data, Chris, like the holy grail of the future for real estate brokerages. And the idea that this data will somehow be shared, that somebody else can sell products to my customers. How important do you think it is for broker owners to protect the data? And when I say data, I mean the information around their prospects, their agents, and their buyers and sellers, and transaction addresses, closing dates, all of that kind of good stuff.
Well, think about that. It's probably the only real asset most of them have.
Mm.
Uh, I think Bed Bath and Beyond buying Fathom was all about the data. How do I get to that? How do I get closer to that customer? How do I insert myself in between them buying a home? And I think if you're a broker owner, I mean, think about how sensitive agents get when they join a brokerage and the broker says, "Oh, use my CRM,"
Mm.
and it's like, "Oh, I'm not giving you my info."
Mm.
Uh, the broker should have that same attitude.
Yeah.
Why am I giving my direct competitor access to anything that makes me unique or gives me an advantage?
So the if I was kind of pitching the other side of that transaction, if I was pitching the real side, I'd say, well, we've got great AI tools, and we're going to help you streamline operations, and that's why you should allow us to have access to your data. If I said that to you as a broker or as somebody that's an industry expert, what would you say?
I'd be nervous. I think the big players, they'll be fine because they have the infrastructure to say no. It's those mid-tier and smaller brokerages that they don't have the infrastructure to say no. So they sort of have to latch onto it. And I think they lose.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that, of course, we've done as an organization is we've hired some folks on to help our brokers develop AI products to do all of the things that that big companies are professing to do. And one of the things, without getting into kind of specific products, I don't think that's relevant, Chris, but one of the things that really struck me in that initiative that we created was that AI, excuse me, is not a business case to consolidate data for us all to have one data pool. It's actually a business case to democratize data that we all keep it ourselves, because I can develop tools so inexpensively, and excuse me, use it to provide excellent customer service, use it to provide excellent what we call click to close services, managing the prospect, use it to provide what we call then click to contract and then contract to close. All of that whole process is so easy for anybody today to pick up applications and own the applications and own the data. It just doesn't make any sense that, as you said, the asset that I have is that data to give it to somebody else.
Right. And to your point, technology has advanced so fast that, what used to take dozens of developers to create, now you can get a couple of really smart people and plug them into one of the AI platforms, and you have your own thing.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. And I think the other thing is that what I'm seeing, Chris, and I'd be curious to get your feedback on this, the idea of the one-stop shop, the idea, Mike Del Prete calls it the holy grail of real estate. And we've been talking about that for 10, 20 years probably, right? How we've got ancillary businesses, how we've got the relationship with the buyer. I think that's finally coming to the forefront for real estate brokers. And it's after all these years of accumulating that data, of creating the process, it seems to me like a real kind of travesty to give all of that money away, or have somebody else even participate in it.
Well, absolutely. And and it's positioned where these brokers now don't have a choice.
Mm.
Right? It's really hard for them to say no. And so, like you said, if I'm a broker owner and I've been in this business 20, 25 years and I've collected all that data, um, and now I'm just giving it to a competitor. What does that do to my margin? What does it do to my bottom line? Um, and does my client like that? Are they going to be a little uptight now? All of a sudden, some national brand has my data and they're marketing to me.
You know what? When you were talking about it, Chris, the words that came to mind were business risk. When somebody else has all of my customer data, excuse me, all of my customer data, my business risk goes through the ceiling because really what I've done now is I've lost control.
Right, right. And to your point earlier about competing with the ancillaries, where does that broker owner now go? Right, their margins are tight. They're staying afloat with their ancillary. Now their ancillary has a direct competitor. Where do they go to make money? How do they stay in business?
Yeah, it's all of these, as we said at the outset, are kind of candid thoughts. A couple things just to wrap our conversation up on this. You appeared as a guest on we had a workshop for large broker clients involved in this transaction that were impacted by this transaction. You appeared as a guest, and you had some incredible insight. And one of the things that I think any acquirer says is, "Hey, Chris, don't panic. Nothing's going to change. Everything's going to be the same." And you had some really sage words of wisdom for our participants about, "Hey, here's what to watch for." Can you just share that with our audience today?
Yeah, it was. You start to look for cuts in support, right? And so if you're in any company in any industry and you've been acquired, and all of a sudden the support starts to go away, or the staff members who are your points of contact start to go away, or where you're used to getting support is now someplace different. Um, Life changes dramatically. Think about just an M&A weighing where it's broker to broker. The advice is to the acquirer, don't change anything.
Right.
Go in and understand the business. But what are they really looking for? They're looking for synergies, right? Where can I cut? Um, Usually it's probably the first one is like bookkeeping or some staff members like that. And now amplify that to a large corporation, merger, acquisition, um, and they start to cut staff and start to cut support. And you think about it as a franchisee, well, what are you paying for?
Mm.
Right? You're paying for that support, and now it goes away. Where's the value? What value are you getting?
Yeah, it's something you really want to be conscious of, I think, and it was just such great advice or sage advice to our group. At the outset, Chris, of that announcement of the real Remax acquisition, a couple of the things that struck me, and you've been in the M&A business for decades, I've been in the business for decades. You just said it. Our advice to people when they take over is, "Hey, don't change anything." And one of the first in the first press release of the announcement was, "Hey, we're going to cut 30 million in overhead, and we're going to move the headquarters to from Denver to Miami." And I thought, wow, that's an odd announcement for the first announcement, right? Because I mean, it'd be like me buying you up as a broker and saying, "Hey, Chris, just tell all your people we're going to close the office and we're going to fire all the staff." It's like,
Right, right. It's certainly not comforting.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Well, and at the same point where we're saying, "Hey, nothing's changing," I always say I have an old saying, Chris. I came up when I say old saying, it's as old as my kids when my kids were younger. What I learned from them is, they had a philosophy. You could tell them things or try to teach them things, but their philosophy was, or how I saw them act or behave, the way their brain behaved, if you will, Chris, is that your actions speak so loud, I can't hear your words.
hmm
Right? So you could tell them, well, hey guys, don't eat sugary, don't eat sugary food. But if we went out and I ordered a Coke, well, they're kind of looking, going, well, hey, wait a minute here, your actions speak so loud. And so I learned really quickly that my actions had to be what governed. And I kind of look at some of these acquisitions and I go, hey, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear your words. What you're talking about doing, it just doesn't align with what you're saying, right?
No, and it's a scary time, I think. And to your point, when you're doing one thing and saying the other, but you're telling your customer, your broker owner, your franchisee, oh, it'll be okay. This is going to be good for you. Um, I don't know. I'd be circling the wagons and creating value in my brokerage right now. I'd be talking to my customer, the agent,
Hmm.
and really understanding where, are they paying attention? Are they getting recruited, by their own company? Are they fearful? Um, I talked to one larger Remax broker owner, and he went around to every office they had just to take the temperature.
Hmm.
Uh, and he was positive about the meetings, but there was a lot of people that had been contacted by real agents, and a lot of people who um, were confused. I think
Yeah.
confused and nervous.
It's interesting because I think one of the things I love to leave our listeners with is kind of some action items. And I think, you hit on one of them that, hey, you got to get the temperature. I think the other thing, Chris, is you've got to define your value proposition as a franchisee, not relative to the group, but what is your specific value proposition? Because I think you're really going to have to lean on that. And then the last thing is that, in the M&A space, I'd be talking to everybody around me, because if I'm smaller, I'm likely going to have to join forces with somebody throughout this, in this kind of consolidation trend, if you will. I'm likely going to have to join forces with somebody to make it to the other side. Tell me what you think of that. What's when I say things like that? How does that bounce off you?
Well, absolutely. I think, right, you're either going to be a boutique or you're going to have to roll into something larger. Um, when I sold franchises, we would talk to broker owners who were unaffiliated. We'd ask them what their value proposition was, and they'd say, "Oh, I answer the phone 24/7."
Hmm.
Well, I think they all say that. Well, now you plug them into, hey, here's some tools, systems, and service, and that maybe differentiates them for a bit, but now the playing field's level again.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's tool, systems, and service, and I answer the phone 24/7. Okay, what else? Um, but they should be calling around in their market and not asking people, telling people they're for sale, or being nervous. But I think the conversation is, hey, look at the landscape's changing. It'd be great to get together and to share information and see if we can help each other.
I love that. Just creating alliances, really, that someday we may lean on, or the people I'm calling may lean on with me. That
Yep.
that's really great. And I love what you said too about the playing field being leveled. I think that's the biggest risk. The data and the level playing field is the two risks.
Right. And it's a scary time. I think also there's a great opportunity, right? It's not gloom and doom. There's a great opportunity for the strong players to go in and create those alliances and bolster their value proposition and come out of this stronger. Um, maybe stronger means they're a little more lean, or maybe stronger means they've acquired a couple of small companies.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Chris, is I talk to all of our Remax franchisees that our organization at ICBC is about building scalable businesses that drive equity for the owners, that are worth something at the end of the day, and none of that's changed for us. All of that, as you said, there's a bigger opportunity today than ever. It's just the way we look at it has to dramatically shift, right?
Yep.
Let me ask this: What is? I'm going to ask two questions to close out. Piece of advice for owners of real estate companies today in the face of all of these changes. What's Chris Schwartz's piece of advice?
You better be talking to your agents right now,
Hmm.
taking their temperature, seeing what they need, what their fears are. And then you said it earlier, it's talking to other people in the market. Protect that data, create that differentiator for your company, if you already haven't, and look for opportunities. There's always opportunity when chaos arrives.
Absolutely, it's interesting because how many times over the years you think about it, Chris, and we were talking about it the other day where GMAC was in the real estate business,
Hmm.
Sears was in the real estate business, and all of that ultimately comes back to somebody's got to sell real estate, right? And so when it comes, when everything settles out, if you're a broker owner that provides value, if you're an agent that can garner the trust of consumers, we're going to do just fine. And I think one of the things that all of these transactions have done, Chris, is taken probably 3 or 4 years of change and compressed it into 180 days. So I think people would be wise to act on your advice quickly.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because it is. It's all of a sudden this change accelerated at light speed. I've heard, like Matthew Ferrara, Nick Bailey, some other folks talk about it's not the market, it's your market.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? And so it's what you make of it. You can freeze and your business is going to go away, or you can go in and really right size, create some efficiencies, and look for opportunity and capitalize. Be smart, but capitalize on what the opportunity is, and be stronger and have more equity in your company.
It's interesting as you were talking, I was thinking that over every market, and I'll call it a disruption, every market change, if you will, whether it was, the internet boom when we were all going to be replaced by by the internet, 08, where we were all going out of business, and on and on and on. I could go over so many changes. After every change, the successful brokers emerge stronger than ever. And we, of course, get to look at financial statements from hundreds of brokers every year. Brokers today are more successful financially than ever before. And I've been doing this 40 years. They just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I know this will help the industry get stronger as well for those that embrace it.
Well, it is. And I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but really, these broker owners need to be looking for wherever they're getting it, right? They need to be looking for advice from somebody else in the industry, right? Get it from your franchisor if you're affiliated, or whoever your mentor is if you're an unaffiliated company. But they all should be looking for somebody who's plugged in to the industry that can kind of give them, hey, here's the baseline. And talk about what's going on in the industry. Again, that didn't mean it as a commercial, but I think it's just good advice. It's if it's us or somebody else.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chris. Well, you know what? Let's do this. What's a great way for people to get in touch with you?
You can call my cell 612-655-1040 or chris.schwartz@brokervma.com.
All right.
I love my new email address, Wayne.
I love it too. I think I'm so excited to have you as part of the team. And, I've always been a believer, Chris, that your income is a measure, I should say. Your income is a measure of the value that you bring to the marketplace. And I know how much value you bring to the marketplace. And I'm so excited for our customers, our clients, and for everybody in the industry.
Well, I appreciate that. And the honor is mine. There's a few folks in the industry that do what you do, but Peter Luft and I always gravitated towards you because of your integrity, right? You always would do what was best for the client. And not that the other folks didn't, but you just sort of stood out above everybody else. And, as I've kind of come to a different position in my career, and the ability to work with you and Norma and the crew, couldn't be a better spot. Super honored to be involved.
I appreciate it, Chris, and God bless Peter. We all miss him. And it's funny because when you were talking, I was thinking of that old adage, birds of a feather flock together, because that's what I loved about you and Peter too, is we always knew where we stood. Hey, we had, we could literally do a deal over the telephone and paper it and get it done, and so it's just an honor to work with you too. Chris, thanks for being our guest today. I really, really appreciate it. And for everybody that's listening today to The Profitable Broker, I hope you enjoyed today's show. We are always committed to getting people on that are moving the needle in the brokerage industry. And Chris, you certainly meet that test. So thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Wayne. This is fantastic.
If today's episode resonated with you, hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss what's coming next. more stories, more lessons, and the unfiltered side of what it really takes to succeed in the market. I'm Wayne Einhorn, and this is The Profitable Broker. Real conversations about what it takes to run a successful brokerage. And we're just getting started. Let's go.
This is The Profitable Broker.